Hi there everybody and welcome to another Total Drama Osuke Island video, or Total Drama video in general. Today I'm going to talk about some Total Drama Osuke Island stuff and a little bit of what I talked about in my last video and maybe a little bit of explanation why I said some things. Now, when I made that video, I didn't make it to make people think that I wasn't going to get renewed. That was just my reasons why I don't think it is. But I'm not opposed to the fact that it will be renewed, which is very, very likely. I just gave the reasons why I don't think it would be renewed, and that's why I made that video. But there are reasons why I do think it'll be renewed, and I might touch on those a little bit in this video at the moment. I just wanted to reiterate for some people who are new to my channel what I want to do, and for those who don't want to go through my videos and see what I was talking about back then. I'm just gonna reiterate some things in this video right here because it's more recent, and probably people who are more new to my channel can watch it and know what I'm all about without having to go back at least 20 videos to see what I said before. So if anybody doesn't know who I am Jesse Ilg. I am an animator. I live in Kelowna, BC, and I've talked to Tom McGillis, the creator of Total Drama, or one of the co-creators of Total Drama, once. I talked to him twice, both at the Taffy Festivals over in Toronto. I've spoken to George Elliott, the owner of Elliott Animation, who works close with Fresh TV and making Total Drama, and he's one of the people who helped create it. So yeah, I've met two of the people who made the show. I've pitched my own show idea, which is Total Drama Osuke Island, to Tom, and I think I talked a little bit about it with George, and that's about it. That's all that happened with them. And but yeah, that's basically what I've done. And basically my idea for Total Drama, if I was to become part of the writing team and have a say in where the series goes, I would have Total Drama Osuke Island be the official 6th season of the show. And the reason why I would want it to be the 6th season is because Total Drama Osuke Island is meant to bring back the original cast. And what that means is that using Total Drama Osuke Island as a springboard, I will bring back the old cast and close up all the plots that they were a part of in a way that'll make people feel fulfilled and happy about the way the show is going down. And one of the things I want to touch on quite a bit with Osuke Island was character development, and building these characters up to be able to face off against the originals and not feel like they're at a disadvantage. One thing I felt when I was watching Total Drama All Stars is that I felt as though the original cast had an overwhelming advantage due to the fact that they had competed in that's their 4th season now, and the Revenge of the Island cast only competed in 1. So I feel like the Revenge of the Island cast would have been competing in their 2nd, whereas the originals would have been competing in their 4th. So that's why I feel like the original cast probably should have had a better shot at winning All Stars and overall, which was why when Mike and Zoe were the finalists, it was a little bit odd that the more experienced players, didn't win, which really sort of didn't make much sense. So basically, when I created Osuke Island, I wanted to have a cast that would be able to go up against the original cast and give them a challenge, and have them be able to go up against the originals and not seem so weak or unexperienced. And the fact is that I use one of my characters, Jesse Gill. He is from my own original show that I'm creating called The Jesse Gill Story, which I created after writing Total Drama Osuke Island because I like the character of Jesse Gill so much and his backstory that I wanted to write that backstory that I made for him. And once I made it, expanded, and then it became this larger thing. Because when I first wrote Osuke Island, I wasn't going to have Jesse Gill and Duncan be cellmates after All Stars. I was going to have Jesse Gill go fresh into the show, and then after season 1, he goes back to jail and he gets put with Duncan and all that stuff, and that's when it happens. So everything that I've done so far has been a result of the years of working on Osuke Island, and I've put 6 years into this one season, the future seasons after it, and this overall story that I want to tell. and that's why I do what I do, sort of thing. And that's why I want to bring the originals back. Because back 6 years ago, my original plan was to just write a fan fiction. And that fan fiction just evolved and kept evolving. And then eventually I went to college and everything started to become more serious and more refined. And, I felt as though I had a bigger thing that I thought on my hands. And then it just kept evolving and evolving and evolving to what it is today. And now that I have all this experience with writing my show and doing all this backtracking and rethinking, I'm able to basically come up with more expandable plots and stuff like that with keeping them self-contained. The one thing that I really want to do for Total Drama is bring back the character development and bring back the heart that the show originally had. And what I mean by heart is I mean like with season 1. If you guys watched my previous video, I talked about heart. What I want to do is bring the heart back. So Jesse Gill is a character in Total Drama Skate Island that really genuinely gives a shit about everybody on that island. Even people he hates. He actually does care. He's one of the few characters on that show that undoubtedly cares about everybody else on that island. And his backstory is the total opposite to that. His backstory is he's the most dangerous criminal in Canada. That's a teen, or was a teen. He's now 20 when he goes on to Total Drama Skate Island, but he is still labeled one of the most dangerous people in Canada. And that's sort of his backstory, is he was accused of this crime that he didn't really commit, and he is facing those consequences even though he's actually just genuinely a nice guy. And that's sort of his character, and he's the one that I use primarily to get across most of my stories or most of my plots and all that stuff. He doesn't actually jump into certain plots that are pretty effective. Like there's one plot I have that I talk about which is about self-confidence and all that sort of like self-image and stuff like that. He plays no part in that lesson, but there is really big ones that I've learned over my years of being of growing up, that there was things I had to learn, and I learned them the hard way. And I basically took the lessons that I learned growing up as a teenager and put them in Oskay Island. And that was and that's something I don't think the writers of Total Drama now can properly communicate, is being a teenager in this generation, or having experienced what it's like being a teenager in this generation, because all of them are in their 30s or late 20s or like something like that, or I think some of them are even in their 40s, or like I think their general age, their writers is about 30 to 40 on Total Drama, and I don't think they know what it's actually like to be a teenager and what we like to enjoy. And that's something I think I have an advantage over them, is how young I am, and the fact that I'm still young. I still sort of have the mind of a teenager. I'm only 22 years old, so I still kind of know where teenagers come from, and what they give a shit about when it comes to their life and their social interactions, stuff like that. So I feel like I have that advantage over them, which something they can't really do anything about. I think I have the advantage, and that's just what I think. I'm pretty sure that with my experience as a teenager, I know a lot more about teenagers than they do. Of course, I am younger, so that might be it. Because you can do any amount of research you want. You can go talk to kids in schools and stuff like that, but in the very end, people who have experienced it are going to give you a more detailed and better understanding of characters and stuff like that, especially teenage characters. And since Jesse Gill is 20, I can more relate to myself at 20 than when he's at 20 as well. And that's where the characters range. That's why my cast ranges a more different age group. The Total Drama Oskay Island cast has, I think it's 6 20-year-olds, a number of 16-year-olds, and then there's one 15-year-old and two 14-year-olds. The two 14-year-olds being Matt and Isabella, Ashley being the 15-year-old, and then it sort of goes up and the cast sort of ranges. And having it be that diverse is similar to Survivor, because in Survivor there is younger players, there is older players, and that's something that factors into who you think is going to win. And that's one of my reasons for having the cast be so age divergent or diverse. And plus, it's fun to, have a younger contestants competing with the older ones, because I think as Jesse Gill ends up, being sort of a mentor to some of the younger cast, just the younger castmates. He ends up being more of a mentor to them because he actually does genuinely care about these people. There's some people that get on his nerves, but he does end up like caring about them. And there's tons of characters on Osuke Island that are unique in their personality. Like the new Chloe I made, she's definitely one of my favorite characters, just because when I imagine her character and those interactions, it seems genuine in the way she talks and the way she presents herself, because she is supposed to be the Lindsay equivalent. It's like Chloe is supposed to be Lindsay and Lashana mixed into one. Lindsay's beauty and Lashana's personality. But, Chloe does have her own unique personality. She has more of like a Courtney Lashana personality, She knows that she is, sort of ghetto, but she knows she's beautiful, but she wants to win. And that's sort of her thing, because I remember this one season of Survivor. It was with the winner, Fabio. I can't remember which season it was, but there was an African American girl there that was really, really, really awful competitor. I think she ended up quitting with somebody else, and it was a real shame. And I thought to myself, well, how come there's no African American girls that do really well in that show? Like, there is some that do really well, but there's no young ones that do really well. Like, I don't think I haven't watched it in a long time, but I don't think there's ever been an African American female winner on Survivor that was a younger girl. And I said, well, why don't I make a character like that? And that's why I made Chloe. And I didn't want Chloe to be dumb, and I want her to be really smart, I want her to have like this Lashana feel to her, which I thought was an amazing idea. It's like, you have a Lashana type character that's going to do really well, but you have her be beautiful, and you have her be an actual role model, which is something I really wanted to go for. And characters like Colin, people have compared him to Jeff quite a bit. That's because when I wrote the fan fiction, that character was Jeff, and then I ended up changing it. I changed it some more, and then I changed it again, and that was over the course of 6 years. It has no resemblance to the fan fiction that I had once written, which is basically it's a huge change. I sometimes look back at what the fan fiction was and say, wow, this was actually a big steaming pile of garbage, and it had that fan fiction feel to it. And the reason why I know what a fan fiction feels like is because I actually wrote one, and actually over going the course of 6 years and changing my fan fiction into something else, I realized what fan fiction, when you read it, what it actually feels like. Like, it has this, I guess it's amateur type feel to it. And I can look at some of my work and say, wow, this feels fan fiction-y. And that's something I've learned to recognize over the years. So when people will send me an original piece of work, I can tell, or some people have sent me scripts for their total drama idea, and I glance over them a little bit. I usually don't end up reading them because I just get this fan fiction-y feel from them, which is, it's not their fault. It's just something that I've learned to develop. And usually when I read something that has that fan fiction-y feel, I just lose interest because I know it's not going to be good. And when I read Total Drama Osuke Island, after leaving it alone for 6 months, maybe I won't read one of the scripts for 6 months and I'll just work on something else. If I don't read that script for 6 months and then I come back and read it and it actually makes me laugh and I don't get that fan fiction feel from it, I know that one's good. And yeah, that's basically that. But I wanted to talk about more so this plan I have. So people are asking me, are you going to bring back some of the original cast in Osuke Island? No. Osuke Island is the original 26. And when people ask me, why can't you put them in? And I go, because I've already written it and I don't want to have to go through it again. And that would ruin the entire show because then I got to go back and add them. And it's not going to happen. If you want to see them back, you're going to have to wait after Osuke Island. That's just how it's going to be. Because I don't want to mirror or try and write the old cast into Osuke Island. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Stop fucking asking me. And I don't need to be harsh. But it just gets super annoying when I keep telling people, I'm trying to make an original cast. Well, why don't you put in Cody? Because Cody's not a new fucking cast member. Okay, that's the thing. And that's super annoying. Why can't you put in Izzy? Because Izzy's not a new fucking new cast member. Well, we don't need new cast members. Then how the fuck do you imagine I'm going to make something new? I can't just make plots out of nowhere. They already have predetermined history. That's why I'm making new history. That's why we need new contestants. If every single season of Survivor had the same cast, it'd be fucking boring because the same people would always end up winning. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I can't get that across enough. And sorry if I got a little bit harsh on some people out there, but fuck, is that ever annoying. And I understand Fresh TV's frustrations with people constantly asking them, is So-and-so coming back? And the person has to reply, well, I don't know, we haven't thought about it yet. I can imagine they're biting their fucking teeth going, this is super annoying. And that's not their fault, it's because of their passion, and that's what I understand. When people come to me and say, I want this character back, I go, okay, it's not going to happen now, it's going to happen later. That's the thing, it's going to happen later. There's going to be a moment in time for them, but right now, Total Drama has a main storyline. It has some main storylines, and that's the important thing to recognize. Yes, reality TV shows are not supposed to center on one character. It's not supposed to do that. But when they film a season, they pick people they think will create a story. Something that gets you hooked and makes you want to watch. That's what All Stars failed to do, was have a main story that people cared about. The main storyline of Mal didn't really intrigue that many people. It had us, strung along because it's All Stars. That's the only reason why I even stayed watching, was because I wanted to know who was going to win, and plus there was an interesting thing with Mal going on, and I wanted to know what was happening, and I wanted to know who was going to win. But basically that was a huge disappointment to me in the way it did go down, and that's why I wrote a way for it to be interesting. and that's the thing that I do, is since I'm a fan, I go, well, here's what this is what I would have wanted to happen. So I write that and say, this would have been way better had this happened. Like, if this had been the way they did it, I would have loved it a lot more. Like, this would have been way cooler. And I think that's an advantage I have. Advantage I have as well is that I'm a fan, so I can address things and be like, well, I want this to happen because I feel as though this is the more interesting plot. And that's just an advantage I think I have, is I can look at it from a fan perspective and say, I would like that, or I wouldn't like that, or I don't want to see that. And that's something, as a fan, I can recognize when I write it. But when I go into later seasons of Total Drama, and if I was to write it, I would definitely move back in the original cast. So the way I have it planned is, I have Total Drama Osuke Island, hosted by the new host Carter McQuaw and the co-host Chief. And Carter McQuaw and Chief play a very important role in bringing the original cast back, because that's what Carter wants. He wants to battle against Chris with Chris's original cast to prove who is the better reality TV show host. And this is not like Blanley. Blanley wanted, she was going to be the original host, and then she turned it down. I think that was her story in World Tour. But the difference between Blanley and Carter is, Carter knew Chris before he hosted the show. Chris and Carter were actually band members in Fametown, and that sort of leads into their rivalry. And that's one thing I think Chris as a character needs. Chris needs a rival. Chris needs a storyline, and that storyline is going to push the challenges and everything else in the season forward. Because if Carter and Chris are trying to outdo each other, it's going to give them a reason to be more interactive in as a part of the story. It's a good subplot, is Carter and Chris. Because I'm pretty sure something in writing is that you have your main story, but the subplots push that story forward. Because the main story can only be so interesting until it gets boring. And once that main story is boring, then you have a problem. That's where the subplots are there to keep moving along. Because Total Drama's main plot is, who's going to win the $1 million? That's what everyone wants to know. It's the stuff that happens along the way and the subplots that keep us going to that point and make us care. And that's the thing I think Total Drama is starting to lose. They're focusing more on who's going to win instead of the journey of getting there. They're focusing too much on the destination and not on the journey. And that's what I think that they tried to address in Revenge or The Longest Race. Yes, they had lots of subplots. Yes, they had lots of character interactions. Yes, they wanted to dive more into character development. But the way they did it, I don't think worked that well, because none of us could relate to anything that they were doing. And that's definitely not their fault. They just picked some wrong storylines to go through. Like with the one that had me going the most was the Noah Emma arc, or the Noah Emma subplot, or the Noah Emma story, you want to call it. That one made me interesting to watch, because I wanted to see how this thing worked out, because it actually had some good points, and it had some good points. But people have proven that on reality TV shows that couples can do well, and they can do well undistracted. If you look at The Challenge, the real world challenge, or real world road rules challenge, there are often couples that compete together and do very well. And same with Survivor. Some couples compete together and do very well. Yes, they can be leveraged against each other. So say the one person's girlfriend's going to get voted off, that's leverage against them. It's definitely a weakness and a strength at the same time. It also makes you a huge target. But in total drama, they often see it as a way to avoid writing couple interaction once they're together in that scenario, which is kind of weird, because usually when you have a couple, things get more intense, because for one, they want to keep each other safe, and for two, you want to know if the competition is actually going to pull them apart or make them closer together. And that's something with Total Drama Skate Island that I definitely wanted to explore. I said I'm not going to create couples and then have them get separated like an episode after. That's not something I want to do. I want to explore couple interaction after the relationship is formed. Because one thing I was annoyed with the most was in World Tour, they had Duncan and Gwen get together and then they split them up, which in fact crippled that relationship, because there was no way for us to develop their understanding for each other in our own minds, which is some people say that, oh, they're only a good couple because they both have colored hair, and that's why people will think they're good together. And it's no. I think they have a deeper understanding of each other than they did with their old significant others. Like, I don't think Trent truly understood who Gwen was. I don't think Courtney truly understood who Duncan was. But I think because Duncan and Gwen had that chance to form a friendship in action, that they actually understood each other a lot more, and that's why it worked. And that's why when they got together in World Tour, I was a little more happy with that relationship, because, like I said before, I was on the Dunkney side. When Total Drama Island came through and Total Drama Action came through, I was definitely a Dunkney supporter. And then when World Tour came along and that all changed up, I said, you know what, I prefer this better. For some reason, I feel like this works a lot better. Like, this feels better. It makes more sense to me. And that's why I was an advocate for Gwankin, and that's why I still am. And why one of my main storylines that I explore is the Gwankin and Courtney storyline. And that's something I really dive into. As you can tell, one of my favorite characters is Duncan, and I feel as though he definitely is one of the main characters in the show. Because no matter what, the show is going to have main characters and side characters. Side characters being the ones who get voted off early, main characters being the ones who make it further in the show, because they are the main characters of that season. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a strength, because if you try and develop too much in the beginning, that's going to leave people open to wanting more, and it's going to frustrate them, because things happened when they shouldn't have. Because you've built it up that way. You made them believe that something was going to happen, and it really didn't. That's something Oskay Allen does very well, is I make sure that if any couples do get together in the beginning, their stories are mostly told in that time, and by the time one of them is eliminated, it's been closed, and you guys sort of know the outcome of that relationship. You know how it's going to be afterward, and you know that there is no openness, and that you can say, well, both of them are gone, but they have each other, so I don't really feel bad about it, and I'm okay with it. And with Oskay Island, that's what I really wanted to do, was make sure that I had concrete storylines that close themselves up and leave interpretation into the next season what's going to happen to them. Because the one thing I think had people the most, on edge about, or for me, this is what made me feel on edge, was in World Tour, when Gwen left, it sort of left as though Duncan was being a jerk to Gwen, even though he wasn't trying to. He was just trying to protect her. That made me feel upset, because I didn't feel as though they were handling that correctly, and it made me feel as though everything that I had now become accustomed to liking was in jeopardy before it even got started. And that's why I really don't like All Stars as well, is because it felt as though they were building up this big thing with Duncan and Gwen, then it just sort of dropped off. Like when Duncan throws himself in front of that leech to save Gwen, you're like, okay, here's the part of Duncan we've never seen before. Here's the part of Duncan that is willing to sacrifice himself to save somebody else. That's very un-Duncan-like, but it was created from another character, especially his then girlfriend. That was in him imposing change. That's why I feel as though Total Drama All Stars, their writing and their storyline changed midway through. The reason why here's why I think it changed midway through. I feel as though at a certain point when the writing they said, here's what we want to do, and then they changed their minds and they said, well, let's go this way instead, and that ended up causing a train wreck. I think what the main storyline of All Stars was going to be was exactly where it was going, except the Gwenka thing became too much of a big deal to them. They listened to the fans too much and they ended up screwing it up instead of doing what they wanted to do. And I can say this completely. The Duncan and Courtney breakup was a executive decision. It wasn't Fresh TV's decision. It was an executive decision. And I know this because I'm pretty sure Tom told me that in World Tour they had to break up certain characters because the executives at Cartoon Network or Teletoon wanted them to prove to kids that, you know, not your first relationship isn't going to be the only one. It's not going to be the only one you're in. You're going to be in multiple ones. And they said that the Goenkin relationship was basically made in the writing room. And I feel as though it was the correct one if they were going to go down the Heather Alejandro route, because that creates a couple verses. Because Duncan really didn't like Alejandro, and Gwen really doesn't like Heather. That gives them a reason to dislike Alejandro and Heather. But if they're a couple and Alejandro and Heather are a couple, it gives them an opportunity to have a couple face-off, which is even more intense than teams, in my opinion, because it's personal at that point. It is personal. Duncan hates Alejandro, Gwen hates Heather, vice versa for both sides. Both of the people that they're together, like both the people that they hate are together, it just creates more intensity. And that's why when I write some of my later seasons, I use that to my advantage. That's something I definitely use because it does matter and people do give a shit, because it's definitely way more intense. One of the things that I ended up doing was I made Total Drama Western All Stars, and Western All Stars is the accumulation of the best of the Total Drama Skate Island cast and the entirety of the Pahkatu Island cast. And you might say, well, why Western All Stars? What's it called Western All Stars? Is because I'm pretty sure they said that Pahkatu Island happened in Saskatchewan, but I call bullshit on that because there's no islands in Saskatchewan. It makes more sense for it to be in BC, but I might have heard that incorrectly. I think I read that off the Fresh TV Twitter, but I don't think that's entirely correct. That's why I said I wanted Oskay Island to take place on the west coast of BC. Same with Pahkatu, and then Pahkatu and Oskay Island, they compete for the best of the West to face off against the original cast from the East. So it becomes a West versus East type thing. So I had Total Drama Western All Stars, and the way that they wrote Pahkatu Island gave me lots of fuel to write Western All Stars, which is something I can commend them for, is because they left so much open, it gave me so many doors to close, which is nice. Because if you go into, let's say, a room and they tell you to close every door, and you go in there and you see all the doors are closed already, you're going to say, well, I got nothing to do, there's nothing here. But if all the doors are open, you can eventually go and close them and, do what you want to do. So when I wrote Western All Stars, I had lots of things I could close up or elaborate on, which was nice. And same with Oskay Island, I had some stuff to elaborate on, but I closed every single door, but in closing all of them, I opened up a bigger door. And that was what we were supposed to allude to next season, because the bigger door at the end of Oskay Island is, now that Carter has his season and his winners, and he's tested them to see who's the best, he has an opportunity to take these best people and pin them against Carter and the Pahkatu Island cast to see who's the best of the West. That's the bigger door. That's what Carter actually alludes to in the very end, is that now that Chris can see his best, Chris has an idea of what he has to go up against using the Pahkitew Island cast, and then it becomes a bigger thing than it was before, because now we have Chris and Carter fighting each other with their teams, and the contestants facing each other as contestants to see who wins. So there's a bigger meaning to everything. It's not just the money on the line. It's who's going to win out of Chris and Carter. There's the hosts can win something now. The contestants can win something now. With Pahkitew Island, there's so many things open. Like, I have the Oskay Island cast going up against the Pahkitew Island cast. There's so many things left open on Pahkitew and Oskay that there's actually room to have some great storylines. One of the greatest storylines I have in the Western All-Stars is the Sammy and Amy. They are still open for story and character development. And going back and watching some of Sammy's interactions, Sammy really doesn't have a really good self-confidence. And that's something that Jesse Gill has a lot of. And, he helps people develop, and he helps steer them on the proper path. And that's something I feel as though Sammy can use a lot of. And Jesse Gill often, he's an advocate for a lot of great things that I've learned over the years. So he ends up telling people these certain things, and it ends up resonating and, helping them and, pushing them in the right direction. He doesn't, he doesn't lead the horse to water and hope to make a drink. He, gives them the trail and says, here's the trail to water. You can walk down it. And if you get lost along the way, I'm here to help. He wants them to discover themselves and, create their own greatness. And that's something that Jesse Gill often does. And that's why I talk about him so much, is because whenever I get stuck with explaining something to a character or trying to make characters understand something, I use Jesse Gill as sort of a springboard to lead them in the right direction. And plus, everybody who watches Total Drama is going to love Jesse Gill. He's going to be probably one of the most favorited characters in the entire show once he appears on Oskay Island. And Jesse Gill isn't a perfect character either. He has his own problems and his own things to get through. He just doesn't let anybody else know about it. And that's a lot like me. Is that if I have a problem, I'm going to deal with it myself. I'm not going to say, I had this huge problem, and of course I tell people that I have a problem with something if I do. But say I'm going through my own emotional problem, I usually don't bring people into it. I usually just sit down and figure it out myself, and that's what Jesse Gill has going for him. He just doesn't like to bring people into it, and that's something that he learns, is to bring others into his own personal matters, his own head. That's what I can say, is he has his own personal matters, and he doesn't like to bring people into them. And that's his quest, to bring people in. And the reason why I can relate to that is because I'm the same way, and I'm writing from a place that I know of, which is fine, I think. And but no, and like with Pahkitew Island cast, there's more open things like Sky and Dave. That's a great open story, and I throw Ella in there. That's a great open story as well. Ella, Dave, and Sky. That one is totally open to interpretation. Stuff like Scarlet and Max, they're still open to interpretation. Topher, still open to interpretation. There's tons of things that are still open in Pahkitew Island. The only thing that is for surely closed in that cast is Sean and Jasmine. That's the only real close thing in that entire season. And that's why in Western All-Stars, Sean and Jasmine are just there, because there's something open. Even with Rodney plays a huge part in Western All-Stars because he's so open to interpretation, and the way I write leaves him in a great position to do something in the show that actually changes the whole season. So there's definitely things that I can use from All Stars and Pahkitew that is great for a next season, but they definitely need to be closed in that season, because after Western All Stars we go into Mega All Stars. What's Mega All Stars, you might be asking? Mega All Stars is the best of the West versus the best in the West versus the best from the East, and that means that's going to be primarily the Oskay Island cast and some Pahkitew versus mainly the original cast and some Revenge of the Island, and that's where we get into Mega All Stars. And what's Mega All Stars? Mega All Stars is definitely Carter bringing his best of the best to beat Carter's best of the best. Wait, Chris's best of the best. Let's screw that up again. Carter's best of the best versus Chris's best of the best. And Carter takes it very seriously whereas Chris brings people he thinks are going to do well, going by who he thinks is going to make it far, not based on their skill, but based on their skill and personality and ability to, make friends and, sort of play the game better. Whereas Carter decides that he is going to let his cast choose who goes. So the winner of Osuke Island actually helps pick the team that faces against Pakatu, and the person who wins Western All Stars is going to help pick the team that's going to face against the against the Eastern All Stars. And that's what Carter believes in. Carter's like, I'm not going to pick who's going to go. I'm going to let the winner pick. Because at the beginning of Osuke Island, Carter says, I'm not going to divide you up into teams. One of you is going to nominate yourself as a captain, and that person is going to pick their team, and then we're going to see what happens. Because it's always a lot of fun, right? I feel it is when the contestants pick the teams, especially with Total Drama Action. Total Drama Action was the first season to have like a captain system where it was, okay, this person's the team captain, they're going to pick the teams. And that was Gwen and Trent. So yeah, I definitely with Osuke Island go with okay, you're all here, who wants to be a captain? And then that's even a joke. Because we all know when it comes to picking captains or picking somebody to do something, all teenagers definitely just don't want to do it. And I know that because nobody wants to volunteer in front of their peers. Too much pressure. And then Carter ends up being like, okay, well, something's gonna happen, or else I'm gonna do it, and you guys are gonna like it. And that's when two people do volunteer. So definitely, I want to go with Carter's idea of having the contestants pick from their peers who they think is the greatest, because in the end, Carter doesn't actually compete against them or any of that. He just sits there and says, meh, go do that. And the contestants end up picking their own teams. Or two contestants pick teams for Osuke Island. And then the winner of Osuke Island picks the team to go up against Pakatu. And then the winner of All-Stars, or Western All-Stars, gets to pick the team to go up against the go up in Mega All-Stars to face off against the other All-Stars. And what I'm doing here is building a greater narrative leading up to the bigger finale, because it's like not only is Osuke Island just a precursor to All Stars, but All Stars is just a precursor to the main event. It's like having a UFC fight card. Like I have the undercard, which is Osuke Island. Then I have a main event, which is Western All Stars. But then I have the championship bout, which is Mega All Stars. So it's like, yeah, we get to watch like a semi good fight. And then you get to watch like a really good fight. Now we're gonna see the best fight of the night. We're gonna see the main event. This is the main event of the evening. If Bruce Buffer was there at the beginning of Mega All Stars, he'd see "Welcome to the main event." He'd do his Bruce Buffer thing and be like, "This is the Total Drama Mega All Stars event of the century," and it's gonna be this huge thing. And that's what I wanted to go with this build-up, because when you watch Total Drama Island, we weren't sure if they were going to bring the old contestants back or if they were just going to go with a new cast every time. Then they brought them back, and they brought them back again. And then they did Revenge of the Island, and then people wanted to know how would they do if they compete against each other. And then went to All-Stars. But with Osuke Island, we know that from what I'm going to tell the audience through online ways is that it is definitely going to go in the direction of it's big now, it's only going to get bigger, and then it's going to get bigger, and then eventually when we get past Mega All-Stars, we're going to hit a point where things have gotten so big that people don't even know what's going to happen. It's like, okay, after Mega All-Stars, shit goes down, and there's this even bigger thing now, and now it's grown out of control. And not in like a bad way. It's grown out of control in the fact that there is so many things happening that basically it's just too much. There's this happening. There's so many possibilities for the season after Mega All-Stars that it's going to be hard to tell what's going to happen. And that's what I really wanted to stress on, was that I wanted people to watch the season after Mega All-Stars with such anticipation that it's going to be an adrenaline-filled, like, holy shit ride. Because at that point, I've built up the story so much that I need to end it really, really well. And if we go 4 seasons, Osuke Island will be season 6, Western All-Stars will be season 7, Mega All-Stars will be season 9, or season 8, and then we're going to have season 9, which will be the big build-up, like the even bigger build-up. It's going to be such a great trilogy, or such a great trilogy before that. Leading up to that, it's going to be like, now that we have all these conflict results, what's the repercussions of that going to be? What's going to, is somebody going to get their revenge for being beaten in the previous season? Is so-and-so going to do this? Is so-and-so going to do that? Is so-and-so going to do this? Now this person's storyline's closed. What's next for them? What's going to happen? How can I like do something with this? How can I do something with that? Who's going to be the next big villain? How are they going to be worse than the villains we've had before? And that's, I think, the reason why Total Drama, the season after Mega All-Stars, is going to be such a huge event. It's going to go nuts, and it's going to, the season after Mega All-Stars is going to be a contestant retiring type season. It's going to be a season where we say goodbye to some characters. Not only they're going to die, but in the way that they have done all they can do in the show, and they are now done with Total Drama. That's what that season would definitely be. It's going to be saying goodbye to some contestants that have definitely been through the ringer and have been through everything they could possibly be through. And at that point, people will be happy to see them move on to something greater. And not in fact that we won't see them again, because we definitely will. I have an idea for that as well. It's the fact that they are done developing and going through their trials and tribulations, that they are now set. This is how they will be for the remainder of their character life. So if there's relationships that are solidified at the very end, those two are together for the long run. They have been through everything, and they are definitely partners. They are going to be, married and stuff like that. That is definitely going to be the outcome of the season after Mega All-Stars. Here is the final chapter in their story for Total Drama. But they will return in another show. But there won't be any nerve-wracking seasons where people are afraid that those contestants are going to break up, or their friendship is going to get ruined, or something will happen. This is their final chapter. We know it's at the very end, nothing else is going to change for those two, or for that character, or anything else. Whenever they go into a different show, that is them. That is the point where they can go on the Redonkulous race and do what they're going to do and compete for fun. Not have to have a heart attack or have a panic attack or an anxiety attack over, oh my god, is so-and-so going to stay together? Oh my god, I can't handle it. You're going to be able to watch them and go, yeah, let's go. Like, you're going to have that hype. You're not going to have that anxiety, because the anxiety will be put to end by the end of the season after Mega All-Stars. So that's what I want to do. And people who are asking me, am I going to bring back characters like Ezekiel and stuff like that? I definitely have some ideas about Ezekiel and Dakota. I don't like the fact that Fresh TV refuses to bring them back to normal. I really, 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 really don't like that. So I'm definitely going to find a way to bring them back to normal. That's something I've been thinking about for a while. And even with Dakota, I've had some ideas with Dakota. One of the main things I wanted to do was with the the Jesse Gill story, Jesse Gill's sort of prologue to going on Total Drama, was I wanted to have him meet some of the contestants before they go on the show. One of them being Duncan, two of them being Zoe and Mike. Jesse Gill is going to help. I think Jesse Gill and Zoe are from the same hometown, which is, I think, is kind of cool, because when Jesse meets Zoe, Zoe is kind of like how she is in Revenge of the Island, except Jesse sort of said, like, there's a storyline between Jesse and Zoe, which is kind of cool. It's only like 2 episodes that Zoe's in the Jesse Gill story, but those 2 episodes sort of explain why the way she is in Revenge of the Island. and how she develops as a character, and why certain things about her are like that in Revenge of the Island, because she was kind of a pushover and stuff like that. And that's what Jesse saw when he meets her in the Jesse Gill story. He sort of like pushes her a little bit out of being less walked on, because with her in the Jesse Gill story is even worse than when she was on Revenge of the Island. Jesse sort of pushes her forward, and we sort of get to see why Zoe looks the way she looks on Revenge of the Island, and how she looked back when Jesse Gill and them were like 20 years old, or when they were like 16 years old. So it's kind of like a cool jump into the past to see that. And Jesse Gill's the original person to take down Mal. That's kind of a cool story, because Duncan said that, well, when Mike was in juvie, he wasn't Mike, he was Mal. So it's like, well, why isn't he Mal now? Why wasn't he Mal when he went to Revenge of the Island? What happened? What made Mal go away? What was the thing that caused Mal to be gone for as long as he was? What made Mal go away? And Jesse Gill is the reason why Mal went away. But you don't know how Jesse Gill made him go away. So that's a cool storyline. I think I want to explore a little bit into Dakota. And what I wanted was Jesse Gill in the Jesse Gill story is sort of like, he's sort of like an internet sensation slash, his the way he gets arrested is it's really dramatic, and it's like nationwide news of what happens. And since Jesse Gill was 16 when that all went, or 16 or 17 when that goes down, by the time he's 20, it's all sort of gone. His fame is a little bit faded. That's why nobody really recognizes him on Oskay Island. But during his incarceration in Jesse Gill Story Season 2, I wanted Dakota to maybe try and capitalize on his fame by sort of making, by Dakota trying to get like a reality show made about her dating the most dangerous teen in Canada. And that was sort of an episode I'm writing right now, is Dakota basically, Dakota paying the warden of Jesse's center, or juvenile center, to let her film a show about her dating him. And she makes up like this fake story about her and Jesse are dating and stuff like that. And it's, they're like, they have like permission to like go on a date, and Jesse Gill's like, I hate this, I don't want to be a part of this, because of events of season 1, he really isn't into dating and all that stuff like that. So he's very, and it's a point in season 2 where Jesse Gill is very dark and conceited, and he like hates talking to people because of what happened in season 1. So season 2, he's still in like this dark, cynical phase, very like Archer type, dark and cynical. If you ever watch Archer, he acts like Archer except more dark and less funny. And Dakota thinks that she's like this really hot chick, and Jesse Gill is just gonna be into her, but he's like no. And he makes fun of her a lot, and he like there's a lot of adult jokes in that segment, but it blows right over Dakota's head. So I assume it's gonna blow over a lot of kids' heads. But basically, Jesse Gill has some interaction with Dakota. It's going to be a whole episode, and I haven't finished yet. I've only written like the first part, the first initial 8 pages. But it had me laughing a lot just because of how funny I think it is of the situation Jesse Gill's thrown into. Because one thing you have to do is you have to learn to kill your darlings, and that means making your characters do things they don't want to do. That's something I really had trouble with doing with Oskay Island, but I eventually ended up getting really great at, because it made me feel better when I wrote everything okay. So I put Jesse Gill in a lot of awful situations, and one of them is he's now forced to go on a date with Dakota, and he doesn't want to, so he basically starts doing all this really mean things to her, but some of them sort of blow over her head because she doesn't believe that anybody can really be mean to her. So he does these mean things, and she's like, oh, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. You're just doing this because you want to do... It's hard to explain, but some of the stuff that he says to her makes her, like, and does to her is just hilarious. And he like, Jesse Gill is so good at twisting words against people. It's so funny. Like, even thinking about some of the stuff he says to her in that episode makes me laugh, just because it's so outlandish and so outrageous. And Dakota, it's so outrageous that Dakota can't process it, or doesn't know what he's talking about. And that's something I do really well at work. This is the person I talk to at work, and sometimes I'll say stuff to her, and it blows, and she doesn't really understand it until I laugh about it, and she goes, "Oh, you're such an asshole." But that's something that I really like doing, is doing that kind of sort of, making jokes that people don't really get until you really think about it, or if you're too young, you're never going to get until you're older. And that's something I really want to get across with this episode with Dakota and Jesse. And that's why I've been exploring bringing Dakota back to normal, is because when we have Jesse Gill get back into contact with these people, he's gonna be like, well, what the hell happened to Dakota? Why is she a gigantic orange green monster? What the fuck? And that's gonna give Jesse Gill a reason to want to help change her back to normal or find a way. And that's just the person Jesse Gill is. And basically, that's what I want to do. And I definitely want to bring those characters back, because there's definitely areas to create story. One thing I wanted to do with Betty was I wanted to make Betty, like when I was doing Betty's design, I originally wanted her to be a lot like Beth, because in the fan fiction she was Beth. And then I said, well, okay, well, I want her to be a lot like Beth. So my first design was a lot more Beth-like, and then I said, no, I don't like it like that. So I changed it, and then I changed it again, and then I changed it again, and then I finally landed on the model I like, which is the African American Betty with the big, like, 80s glasses and the 80s attire and the big puffy hair, because she might be a love interest for Cameron, because her and Cameron are the same height, and we actually haven't had an African American couple on the show. And so I was like, well, if I'm gonna open doors, I might as well open a lot of them. So I said, well, instead of just making Betty this Beth clone or this band geek that I tried to model after Jennifer from American Pie, I said, I'm going to make her something different. I'm going to go with something original. Let's go with this, nerdy African American girl. And I just Googled nerdy African American girl. And then I found this one piece of reference that I really liked. And there's this African American girl that had really, like, frizzy black hair and 80s glasses, and she looked really pretty. And I was like, So not only do nerds have to, like, there was somebody had posted a comment on her that they thought Betty was nerdy and ugly, and I said, no, I think Betty looks nice. I think she looks very attractive for the way she is designed, and like her model is something that is basically very deceiving, because she looks nerdy, but she's not. She's actually kind of hot. And when I thought, well, if I wanted to do like a Cameron love interest, definitely a character like Betty would be the proper one to use, just because of the way Betty is and the way Betty is designed. Definitely, I could see those two getting together, and it would seem almost kind of natural. And that might be an idea to do after the Mega All-Stars and stuff like that is over. There's stuff that can be explored, and there's definitely lots of other things that can happen. Like definitely with Logan, I wanted Logan to be a love interest for Dawn, and definitely with Logan's newest design, I think he would sort of appeal a lot more to Dawn, or even the two vegans from the Redonkulous race. He could definitely interact with them, and that was the reason why I wanted to bring Logan into more of that hippie look. And that was something I really thought about, was Logan's design. I wanted him to look really hippie-ish, and I think I nailed that on the head with a hammer. And there's definitely other characters like Matt and Isabella that are young at the age of 14, but over the course of the 4 seasons going by, they are going to get older, and they are going to grow up a little more, and they are going to get taller. Because right now, Matt and Isabella are the same height, and they're fairly small for their age, but over a couple of years, they're going to get taller. And definitely, their interactions together are going to differ based on how the way they look. Because when they first started, they looked a certain way. And then as they've grown up together on the show, along with the rest of their friends who are older than them, their older friends are going to say, you two are really, grown up, and you two look a lot different. And that's going to be another thing. So I don't create my shows to basically close everything up and have them never come back. I'm going to do it in a way that allows me to create new stories from what I have when the doors are closed. So once I close all the doors, the bigger one opens, and then all of a sudden, well, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this. And then that's going to be what keeps driving us to new seasons, because it's not only going to be about the doors that were closed last season. Maybe those doors get reopened. Maybe I go back and I reopen a door and say, well, let's go through it and see where else these doors lead to. So there's definitely room for improvement, but just so you people who keep asking me who I am and don't want to watch my old videos, this is sort of a video for you guys. Hopefully it's not too long. It's going to be about 40 to 45 minutes. Hopefully you guys have like a game to play in the background while I talk or something like that. That's definitely how you guys should watch these videos. I don't expect you to sit there with your eyes glued to the computer for 45 minutes. I expect you to, maybe pull up, like, if you have a computer or buy a TV, just, or a laptop, put your laptop down, click play, listen to me talk while you play a game, just sort of listen, I don't expect you guys to watch me do what I'm doing. I expect you to just, listen. You don't have to watch. You don't have to sit there with your eyes glued to the computer screen or, expect me to say something cool about, or spoil anything. You guys can sit there and let me talk about, or listen to me talk about what I want to do and why I want to do it and how I want to do it. So yeah, and that's what these videos are for. I also want to let you guys know that I'm working on a character audition video. That's the one I have in the background here. That's Jesse Gill's audition tape with Duncan in the background, flipping him the bird as he sort of insults Duncan a little bit in his audition tape. And and plus there's Raggedy Duncan right there. I'll put a picture here because it's a little bit whited out there. But yeah, we get to see what happened to Duncan after All Stars. That's what he looks like. I really wanted to work on his design and make it a lot make him look a lot older than he actually is. He looks hella old in this. He looks like he's like 30 in this picture. And then I've cleaned up Duncan on the other monitor here, makes him look young again. And if I flip between the two models, actually you can see how a 20-year-old can look a lot older than they actually look based on their appearance. And basically Duncan, redesigning Duncan to look older was actually pretty fun. I did that like yesterday, and it was really fun because I was making the storyboard pictures. This is one of the storyboard pictures I'm going to use for the animatic, because I got to talk to my voice actor Kevin Morrison, see if he wants to come and record the lines for this audition tape. And then I'm not going to have Duncan talk because I can't get Drew Nilsson to actually voice act Duncan, because I'm pretty sure Fresh TV doesn't want that, and plus I think Drew Nilsson's a little bit too busy to record like one set of lines for the audition tape, so I just took that out for the audition tape, which is totally fine. Duncan doesn't need to talk, he just needs to be there. But no, you get to see Duncan and Jesse sell a little bit. Duncan sitting on the bottom bunk and Jesse sort of like talking to the camera and all that stuff, and he makes sort of a shot at Duncan in the background. Duncan flips him the bird. If in the picture you're gonna see Duncan flipping Jesse the bird. Getting that hand properly took a while. Getting that finger, like there's the I guess you're seeing it from this way over. Like doing that, like getting that finger the right way, this one here, was a lot of work, and getting the thumb to work was a lot of work too. So yeah, this is one of the storyboard pictures, and I hope to have it animated soon. I want to see if Kevin will do it and be involved again, because I don't have a professional studio like I did when I made the Jesse Gill story trailer. I could ask one of my audio engineer friends if he could book me some time, but I have to talk to him again and see if he wants to do that. And plus, I am animating this in Flash, and I have learned how to animate in Harmony. There's Toon Boom Harmony and Adobe Flash. I learned how to use Toon Boom, so I've been self-teaching myself to use Flash. Like you can see in this video over here, that's my self-taught Flash music video. If you haven't seen that, I definitely go watch it. It has like 4,000 views now. I think it's one of my better pieces of work. But it's gonna be my first time animating in Flash. To dialogue, or this one was pretty good. This one was actually pretty challenging. The My Heart I Surrender I Prevail music video. So yeah, I'll have a chance to look forward to the Jesse Gill audition. I don't think it'll be finished for about a month or so. I might contact Kevin today and see if he wants to do it. If he asks to be paid for it, we might have to wait, because I think it's on May 4th. I have an interview to work at a studio here in Kelowna. I'm not going to say which one, but it is working on a pretty big show, and I'm excited for that. I might be working with an actual studio and getting paid a lot better, so I might be able to afford Toon Boom, and I'm able to do this trailer, or this Jesse Gill audition video in Toon Boom. And just so you guys know, it's only going to be about 30 seconds. It's not a really, really long audition tape, because I don't want Jesse Gill to talk for too long, just because the story in which leads up to his audition tape being recorded, it's not really him deciding to do the audition tape. I'm not going to spoil how he gets invited on the show, but definitely the reason why he makes his audition tape is basically a formality. He just sort of like says whatever, or he just sort of does whatever. It's only there to prove that Jesse Gill is there not only for himself but for Duncan as well. But no, I think that's about it. That's all I really have to say, guys. thank you again for watching, and hopefully anybody who's new had some questions answered, and yeah, hopefully hopefully this explained quite a bit, because I've had quite a few questions come in later, all that stuff, and people asking me, why don't I bring any old cast members back. I said that in the very beginning. I also explained why I have a new cast and a new host and all that sort of stuff, and what it does for the show. And I sort of explained, where the reason why I write and my writing style and how I developed and all that stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys subscribe, that'd be great. I'm trying to get 1,500 right now. I think I'm at like 1,423 subscribers. So if I can get like 67 more subscribers, that'd be kind of cool. Let's get up there, because the more people that are watching Total Drama related content, I think the greater chance we have of getting the show renewed. And I think the video I do after this one is going to be the reasons why I think Total Drama will be renewed, and will be renewed for another season. So hopefully you guys will stay tuned for more videos. If you guys want, check out my old videos about me designing characters. And just so you guys know, my Betty redesign video was actually supposed to have audio and a webcam with it, but the program I was working in was being a real pain in the ass, so I ended up just cutting off the webcam and audio and doing it as a speed tutorial video. But yeah. So if you guys want to subscribe for more content, definitely I'm going to start doing more videos about Total Drama, probably more of in the style like Quaman. There's a Quaman Land. He's a Dragon Ball Z video kind of guy. He does videos like, what if so-and-so did this, what if so-and-so did that, what's this, what if this happened, or why didn't this happen. He does videos like that. I think I might start doing something like that, and we'll see where that goes. But anyways, guys, if you want, let me know what you thought about the video down below in the comments, and subscribe for more. And I will see you next time on another Total Drama Osuke Island video, or Total Drama video in general. Thank you guys for watching.